Welcome everyone. In this lecture video, we will discuss adult teaching and learning. Can you teach old dogs new tricks? Yes or no? There is a proverb saying that you can't teach an old dog new tricks. This means people are often reluctant or unwilling to change old habits or long-held beliefs. Actually, it depends on the situation. If you say yes, the next questions are these. How can they best be taught? What tricks are best taught to them? Who can best teach them? Under what conditions can they be taught best? Are they happy learning the tricks? What can make them continue exhibiting the tricks? These are questions that are applicable also when teaching adults. Who is an adult? Is an adult has reached the legal age? Is an adult is a person who has achieved the ability to reproduce? Or is an adult is a person that is fully developed and mature or grown up? Who is an adult? What about those who never achieved the ability to reproduce, like the sterile and the barren? Would ligated women or vasectomized men be no longer adults? Who is fully developed? Who is mature? Who is grown up? When can an individual vote? Get married without parental consent? Whose self-concept is of an adult? And whose idea is it that one is an adult? According to psychological definition, a person is an adult to the extent that he or she perceives himself or herself to be essentially responsible for his or her own life. Therefore, who is an adult? Who behaves as an adult? Who performs adult roles? Examples are the following: teachers, farmers, parents, extension agents, policemen, priests, health workers. According to sociological definition, an adult is an individual who has come to the stage of his life in which he or she has assumed full responsibility for himself and usually for others, and who has concomitantly accepted functionally productive roles in his community. Now let's define the following terms. What's the difference between teaching and learning? Teaching is the art, the art of changing people's behavior by facilitating the learning process for them, while learning is a relatively permanent change in behavior brought about by practice. Now let's talk about the difference between andragogy and pedagogy. When you say andragogy, it is the art and science of helping adults learn. This term or this concept was used originally in 1833 by Alexander Kapp, a German educator. It was developed into a theory of adult education by Malcolm Knowles, an American educator. And most adult learning theories have been based on his work. It is built upon two central defining attributes. One is that learners are self-directed and autonomous, and the teacher is a facilitator of learning rather than a presenter of content. On the other hand, pedagogy is the art and science of teaching children. Now, let's compare the two. With regards to the concept of the learner, the role of the learner in pedagogy is dependent, while in andragogy, it is self-directing. Meaning, in pedagogy, the learners are dependent on the teacher for guidance, evaluation, and acquisition of knowledge. The teacher takes the responsibility for the whole learning process, while in andragogy, the learners are taking the initiative to assess one's own needs, create goals, and seek out appropriate strategies on their own. The teacher's role is to encourage and nurture this self-directed need. Now, with regards to the role of the learner's experience in pedagogy, the learners bring little experience to the learning situation. It's because they are only children. They have less experience compared to adults. They are also dependent on the expert input. While in andragogy, learners' experience accumulated over a lifetime is a great resource for learning, both for self and others. And learners attach greater significance to what they experience rather than what they are told. The main techniques are transmittal techniques in pedagogy. And in pedagogy, the main techniques are experiential techniques. With regards to the readiness to learn, in pedagogy, they learn what they are conditioned to learn to obtain parental or societal approval. While in andragogy, the learners learn when they feel a need to learn. In pedagogy, the fear of failure is a great motivator. That's why in children they are motivated to learn because they are afraid of their teacher or they are afraid of their parents. They are afraid to fail. In andragogy, the learners should meet their needs to help them cope with the demands of their world, their home, their work, and etc. In pedagogy, learning is standardized and progressive because it is aimed at the same age group and they have similar learning needs and readiness to learn. While in andragogy, learning should be organized to meet the learner's needs and sequence according to individual's ability and their readiness to learn. With regards to orientation to learning in pedagogy, learning is subject-oriented, with emphasis on content, and most of which they may forget because it has no immediate relevance. While in andragogy, learners seek to acquire competence to cope with the demands of their world. They seek personal development and achievement of potential. They also seek immediate gratification, and learning must be relevant and immediately applicable. Now, let's discuss the adult learner characteristics. Let's talk about it in terms of the following 6 points: the need to know, learner self-concept, role of experience, readiness to learn, orientation to learning, and learning by external and internal factors. Adult learners need to know why they need to learn something before undertaking to learn it and how they will benefit from it. They want to know how learning will help them specifically. And as a person matures, his self-concept moves from one of being a dependent personality toward one of being self-directed human being. As a person matures, he or she accumulates a growing reservoir of experience that becomes an increasing resource for learning. They want to use what they know and be acknowledged for having that knowledge. And as a person matures, his readiness to learn becomes oriented increasingly to the developmental task of his social roles. Learning should solve real-life tasks or problems. Moreover, as a person matures, his time perspective changes from one of postponed application of knowledge to immediacy of application, and accordingly his orientation toward learning shifts from one of the subject-centeredness to one of problem-centeredness. Adults are life, task, or problem-centered in their orientation to learning. Adults tend to be more motivated towards learning that helps them solve problems in their lives or results in internal payoffs. External payoffs are also important, but internal need provides more satisfaction. Now, when do adults learn best? Adults learn best when they have strong desire to learn, they put forth an effort to learn, they have clear goals, and they receive satisfaction. Now let's discuss the different principles of adult teaching and learning. The first principle is self-activity or active response. If you are to effectively change the behavior of people, we should make them actively participate in doing what is to be learned. The extension worker should devise activities that elicit participation. Another principle is the practice or repetition. A learning activity experienced many times tends to be remembered longer and to be recalled easier. And the next one is timing. Learning takes place more readily when a fact or skill is taught at the time or just before the time when it can be used in some serviceable way. Next is association. Experiences that happen together tend to recur together. Hence, we learn once by associating it with the other. Another principle is satisfaction. Anything that is satisfying will promote learning. Is there anything more satisfying than making something creative? During extension work, activities that encourages creativity can promote satisfaction. Next is reward. Reward promotes learning. Rewards tend to create a feeling of pride in achievement, thus motivating to be more productive. Another is clarity. The ease of learning varies directly with the meaningfulness of the materials presented. Learning is increased when the learner sees the end sought by the practice. The next principle is the principle of apperception. Learners perceive the new in terms of the old. We also have the principle of transfer. A person learns through transfer to the extent that the abilities acquired in one situation help in the other. Transfer is the application of carry over the knowledge, skills, habits, attitudes, or other responses from the situation in which they are initially acquired to some other situation. The next is the principle of readiness. The more fully a person is in readiness to act in a certain way, the more satisfying it will be for him to act in that way. When not ready to act, he is annoyed if made to act. And also we have the principle of mindset. Past experiences keep individuals from using objects in different ways. The next principle is the use and disuse. When something is learned in use, it is remembered, but when it is not used, it is forgotten. We also have the individual differences. No two people are exactly alike. People vary in their ability to benefit from one teaching method or technique. We also have the principle of contrast. We tend to remember those things that are in contrast. And also the principle of recency. The more recent an experience, the more readily it can be recalled. The recency effect is a memory phenomenon in which people tend to recall the most recent information more accurately. Now, let's take a look at the Edgar's cone of learning. According to this cone, or according to Edgar, people usually remember 10% of what they read and 20% of what they hear. People can define, describe, list, and explain information they read and or heard. Moreover, people usually remember 30% of what they see and 50% of what they see and hear. People can demonstrate, apply, and practice the learnings they saw and heard from viewing images, watching videos, attending exhibits, and watching demonstrations. Moreover, people tend to remember 70% of what they say and write, and also 90% of what they do. They can analyze, define, create, and evaluate the things they learn through participation in workshops, through designing collaborative lessons, through simulation, modeling, and experiencing a lesson. And of course, doing by doing the real thing. That would be all for now. Thank you very much for listening.